Okay. I am, oh, we do. We have people watching. So
Okay.
I'll come onto the screen real quick. Hi, I'm Lorinda Face, Director of Special Programs for Rockford, and I am just going to do a brief introduction of our guest. And she is going to talk about social media safety. She'll tell you more about yourself. There is a question and answer box that is open, and I will monitor that. And if we have time at the end, then Alicia will be able to answer that. But welcome, Alicia.
Thanks, Lorinda. Hi, everybody. I really appreciate you having me again this year. I think this is my second year doing this. I'm going to take the time to share my screen a second. I am the outreach director for the Michigan Child Protection Registry. And I've been doing this now for like 13, 14 years. And hold on, I'll come. This is not share. Is that screen? Okay, they changed the buttons on me a little bit. I've been doing this for a long time. Before I did this, I did a bunch of work in Lansing. I did a lot of policy work, and then I got into the human trafficking world, which kind of sent me into this internet safety world. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is I'm going to talk about the registry a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about some parental controls because there's a lot of new things out there, and the way they work is a lot of times is changing. And then I'm going to talk about sexting and sextortion. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the apps our kids are using and what predators are looking for. So let's get into it. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about the Michigan Child Protection Registry before. It has actually been around since 2005. And how it works is you as a parent, you would go to the website down at the bottom of the screen, the Protect My Child website, and you would enter in you and your kids' email address, their cell phone numbers, and then any of these apps that you see on the screen, if they use any of these apps, you would put in their app handles. And what will happen is they will stop receiving any advertisements that a minor shouldn't be receiving in the first place. So anything from pornography, gambling, tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, because it is legal here in the state of Michigan. I have to say, this year, the online gambling ads have like just quadrupled in kids' inboxes. So I'm talking email, text messaging, and then some DMs in some of these apps. I meet a lot with our the head of the gambling commission in Detroit, and because of all these ads, there are so many young people starting to gamble online, and they're stealing their parents' debit cards and social security numbers and account information. And he's told me that, he gets calls at least 2 to 3 times a week from parents begging for their money back. And unfortunately, even if there is a minor that gets in there and does lose a bunch of money, they do not give you a penny back. And so these gambling ads, this is something that the registry will stop. You are on it for 3 years. And then after that, you'll receive an email from us. And maybe by then your kids are out of high school and you don't want to think about it anymore, or you can re-up for another 3 years. So the bottom line is these companies, these adult-oriented companies, are messaging our kids. And these are some actual examples of what some kids have received. There's some text message. I apologize for some of the language, but I wanted to show you exactly what kids are getting. There's some text messages on here. There's some emails. And then the bottom one is from an Instagram direct message. So this is what the registry stops. So how can you help me tonight? Like I said, this registry has been around since 2005, but not enough parents know about it. So if you can please share this information with your friends and family, register your children after, you've finished listening to me tonight. It does not take long to do it all. Share the registry on your social media. And then if any of you belong to a church or a certain school, or a certain organization that you have an e-newsletter, if you could put in a blurb about the registry for me to get it out to either your employees, your clients, whatever. I have a blurb that you can just copy and paste right from me. At the end of this presentation, I will give you my email address, and you can just email me for the information, and I will get everything that you need to you. So that is the registry. So now I'm going to talk about parental controls. But before I get into that, I want to talk about two things that I don't talk about in this presentation that you'll probably notice. I don't talk about screen time, and I don't talk about, and I get this question all the time, at what age should I get my kid a cell phone? And this is why. Screen time, I feel like, is really hard to talk about. I don't feel like I should be the one saying, okay, your kid should only get an hour and a half a day or 45 minutes a day, especially now since our kids, when they're at school, are on devices all day long. I think it's just really hard to regulate this. The Association of the Academy of Pediatrics, or however, whatever that title is, they came out with some pretty specific guidelines. And so if you're looking for at what age, exactly how many minutes your kids should be watching the screen, you can go to their website. But honestly, I just think every family is so different. Every kid is so different. So I just try and stay away from giving parent specifics on that. And then when it comes to at what age you should get your child a cell phone. A lot of people are waiting till the 8th grade. That's like the big national campaign, which is called Wait Till 8. But, I know a lot of parents that there's divorced families, or there's families that, who work full time and their kids are coming home alone and they want them to have some kind of, cell phone. It also, to me, depends on the kid. So I have a 16-year-old son and I have a 12-year-old daughter. And my son at 12 was definitely ready for a phone. He still is not interested in social media at all. He's my little rule follower. He plays a ton of sports. He's barely, sitting around on screens. And so I felt like at 12 years old, he was definitely ready for that. I had all the parental controls set up and everything else. Now, my daughter turned 12 last October, and there's no way in the world I was giving her an actual cell phone like I did to my son, because she thinks she's going to be some, the next TikTok star. She wants to be on every social media app out there. So instead of getting her a regular Android or Apple phone, I got her a Bark phone. And I have been so happy with it. And I will be talking more about Bark in the coming slides. So it's so hard for me to say, no kid should have a cell phone until this age. I just think every kid and every family is so different. So when it comes to parental controls, there's 3 levels where you can have parental controls. And the top one is your internet. And I don't know what internet providers you guys have up in Rockford. I'm not sure. If you have Xfinity, Comcast, you guys have already a ton of free parental controls that come on your internet. All you have to do is just Google Xfinity parental controls, and they will take you step by step on how to set those up. You can block websites. There's like a safe Google app, a safe search app that kids can use. You can block who they can and can't talk to. You can, put in certain timelines that your kids can't be on the internet. There's a lot that Xfinity gives. Now I have AT&T and they don't have any parental controls. So what I did years ago, or what you can do, is you can buy something that you actually attach to your router. It's just a little device that you attach to that box, that black or white box that you have hidden under a bed or under a desk somewhere. And it is a monthly fee, and it definitely isn't cheap, but you can go through Bark or through Circle and you will have all the parental controls available to you. And why this is so important to have it at the internet level is because that way when your kids have friends over or babysitters over or cousins and they are under your internet, then they are under your same rules. So that's why that's so important. The next level is obviously the device level. And we all know every device comes with so many free parental controls. Um, I always tell parents, don't forget about that Xbox, PlayStation, and especially the VR. There are so many parental controls on those devices that you can set up before you hand that over. I do highly recommend, though, I have been really looking into what is better, an Apple phone or an Android phone. And the Android phone parental controls do seem to work a lot better than Apple. And I know that kids don't like to hear that because every kid wants an Apple phone. And then lastly, there pretty much every app now has parental controls. Even Pinterest has parental controls now because they were having such a bad porn problem. And kids were also using Pinterest to DM people that they weren't supposed to be DMing, or sharing their information that way. So now I don't know of an app really. Well, Discord probably is the only one that doesn't have parental controls. I really don't know of many apps that don't anymore, but the problem is in the way that they're getting you is if you as a parent want your kid to have parental controls on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok, you have to also have an account on the app. So you have to have the app as well, which I know is super annoying for some parents. Like, I don't want to be on Snapchat either. But unfortunately, that's the only way that these parental controls work. If you want the best of the best parental controls, I highly recommend either purchasing a Bark phone or downloading the Bark app to your phone or to your kid's iPad. Bark is just, I can't say enough about it. Bark has been fantastic for us. How it works is, so my daughter has a Bark phone, but it'll work the same if you use the app. It looks at every text message that your child sends out and that they receive, every song that they listen to, anything that they Google, um, anything that they email, emails that come in, emails that go out, and you will receive either a text message or an email or both if there is any what I call trigger words. So anything to do with cyberbullying, drugs and alcohol, sexual content, anything. I just got my daughter, now that it's nice out, she's all over our neighborhood. And the other day I was telling her she needed to get home because she needed to go to lacrosse. And I had texted her, get your butt home now with exclamation points. And I received a text message right away saying that I was cyberbullying her and was sending sexual content. So that's how good this app is. So I can't speak highly about it enough. However, it really only works on an Android. An Apple phone will not let it look at certain apps like Snapchat and Instagram. So that's kind of the bad part about Bark. And it's not Bark's fault, it's actually Apple's. Another app that's really good is Life 360, especially if you have a 16-year-old. You can tell exactly where your kid is in real time. You can see how fast they're driving, and you can even see if they are using their phone while they're driving. So that's a good one too. But I could sit here for the next 45 minutes and talk to you guys about parental controls all night long. Your kid, and you could spend all the money in the world to get something at the network level and then download the Bark app, but your child is still going to see something that you don't want them to see. They're still going to do something that you have told them not to do online. So that is why it is never too young to talk to our kids about this stuff. And I feel like it's kind of like the sex talk. And I say that because it's something that we know as parents we need to talk about to our kids. We're not really comfortable with it because I think, at least with when it comes to online stuff, they know more than we do. And so it's kind of an uncomfortable conversation, and it's one that needs to be dealt with more than one time. And it needs to start really young. There's two books. I don't know how old your kids are that are on tonight, but there's two books that I highly recommend to help you talk to they're kid books. And one is for 3 to 8, and then one is for 8 and up. And they're called um, good pictures, bad pictures. And then there's good pictures, bad pictures, junior. And it's a short book that you can read together with your child. And it talks about, and honestly, it starts talking about pornography without talking about pornography. It just talks about, pictures that, could make them uncomfortable and that they can come to you and you're not going to get mad. So it's those conversations. It's a great conversation starter. If your kid, when they do see something that you don't want them to, I always beg parents, do not freak out because you do not, just take that device away and say never again, because you want them to be able to come to you if they see something and you're not in the room so that you can talk about it. One of the best advices and pieces of advice I can give you is to have a family contract. There's tons of these online. Just Google social media family contract. We keep ours on our fridge. We sat down with our kids and wrote it together. We wrote down what the rules are and what the consequences are. Our kids even came up with some rules for us, and we all had to sign it, and it's worked really well. And then lastly, and I know you guys have heard this, probably a million times, but keep the locations off. Make sure every account, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, or Facebook, make sure it's private. And then lastly, make sure no matter what your kid is using, especially if it is like Roblox, make sure you're using your kid's birthday, even if they're 5 years old. Make sure you're putting in their birthday and not yours. Because, for example, apps like Roblox, if you are 5 years old or 13 years old, it's a big difference in what Roblox allows you to see and do. So that age is really important, putting in the correct age. So when I was doing trafficking work, I talked about sexting and sextortion all the time. And I have to say, in the last 5 years, this has become such a huge problem in our schools, which is sad because this isn't where schools should not be the ones to have principals and teachers and counselors should not be the ones dealing with these issues, but unfortunately they are. And so I definitely wanted to put this in my presentation and start talking about this because our kids are doing this constantly. I just found out about a third grader that had taken some naked pictures of his neighbor and brought his cell phone to school and was showing kids. So it is definitely going younger and younger. As you guys, as parents, I'm sure you've heard, kids are swapping naked pictures before they're even meeting the person on the other end of the phone or before their first kiss. So we have got to start taking this really seriously because this is child pornography. If your child takes a naked picture of themselves and doesn't send it to anybody, but just keeps it on their device, they have just produced child pornography. And they can get in trouble for that. If they send it to a friend, someone that, said, yes, send it to me, they're distributing child pornography. If someone sent your child a naked picture of themselves and it was of a minor, and they didn't ask for it, but they keep it on their device and they are possessing child pornography. And this is something, I'm not a social worker, but we need to get this through to our kids somehow because it is causing so many problems. So I kind of put sexting in three different groups. So you have your, what I say is normal, even though it's not normal, but your normal relationship sexting. And I'm only talking about minors today. Where, where a boy and a girl or girl, whatever, you're in a relationship with whoever, and you are sending naked pictures back and forth to each other, and it's both consensual. And then we have groups of girls, like girls that are BFFs. There's like 5 or 6 in a group that are taking naked pictures of themselves and sending them only to each other, either through text or through Instagram messaging. And this has become a huge problem. Why girls are doing this, I have no idea. I have asked so many teenage girls that are doing this, and they really can't explain why. But what ends up happening, especially with, teenage girls, is there's always a fallout. And this happened in Rochester Hills years ago. A group of 5 or 6 girls were sending naked pictures of themselves just to each other. They got into a beef. One girl got mad and took all of the naked pictures and sent them out to students who sent them out to students. And over 80 kids in Rochester Hills received these naked pictures. Some of them had to go through the juvenile justice system, some had to go through major counseling. It really upset the entire community. It was a really big deal. And then the last section, I guess, of sexting is when consensual sexting turns into sextortion, which happens so easily, especially with minors and with adults. Actually happened to a good friend of mine. But it's happening to kids a lot, especially girls that are trying to break up with someone, and that person is like, if you break up with me, I'm going to send these naked pictures, to all of our friends or to your family, to your coach. And what a lot of people don't get is in the state of Michigan is if you even threaten, just the threat of exposing those sexual images is illegal. You can get even if you don't follow through with it and don't do it, it is illegal. So we are always one thing that's bothered me, especially in the last couple of years, is we've always only talked about girls being victims. Girls have always, in the past been victims of sextortion, and now young boys are becoming the victim of sextortion. And I know that you guys had this in your community and I can't even imagine. But this is happening nonstop where, a young boy, usually between the ages of like 12 and 16, either on Snapchat or Instagram or somewhere, they're receiving a friend request from a girl. She looks like, that she's the same age. She's very pretty. He accepts the friend request. They start chatting. She sends him a naked picture and then says, now you send me one. He automatically sends her a naked picture. And then she responds saying, if you don't send me, $200 in the next 48 hours, I'm going to take this naked picture of you and send it all over. And these boys do not know how to handle it because they haven't been talked to about it. This still, even though it's been happening for years, this still is kind of a new concept. Um, but they don't know what to do. They don't have the money. They're embarrassed to tell their parents. They think they're going to get in trouble because they send a naked picture. And what is happening is these are not girls. These are, at first, it was men from different countries doing this to our boys here in the United States. But now, unfortunately, teenage boys in the United States are doing this to other teenage boys. Usually not in their same community. It's usually in a state. They're usually doing this to people that are in a different state or a different city than they are. But unfortunately, now it's teenage boys doing this to other teenage boys. Um, but this happens so quickly. A couple of these boys that have taken their life because they did not know how to handle this. From the time they received a friend request to the time they died, I know of two of them, it was only 45 minutes. And so they just panic and they think that that's the answer. And so we've got to talk to our kids about this, especially our boys. If for some reason your child does do this, sends a naked picture and someone tries to get money from them, this is what you need to do. They need to automatically stop communicating, obviously, with this person. Do not send the money because if you send the money, they're just going to ask you for more. My advice is to definitely tell someone. A lot of kids do not want anybody to know because they don't want to have to talk to a police officer or an FBI agent, and I can understand that. But that is also the only way we can get these people. So do not delete anything. Save everything, all of the images, all of the chats that you had, videos, anything, and then block the sextorter. And then I highly recommend contacting the FBI at this tip website here. I've talked to a number of FBI agents in some counties, some local police officers um, are willing to take this on, but a lot of times they just kick it to the FBI anyway. So my advice to parents is to just go to the FBI. I know that sounds scary, but they are best equipped to deal with this. They will come to your house because they will come to your house pretty quickly because they want to make sure your child is okay. That is their number one goal, is to make sure that that there are no more lives taken over this, and they will be taking the phone. Now, if for some reason your child does end up with pictures out there and on the internet, or you think that there are, what you can do, and this is new, you can contact down here, take it down, nicmic.org. The National Center of Missing and Exploited Children are now for free. If you send them a picture of your child, they are able to use an AI program to look out on the internet world and see if there are any naked pictures of your child out there, and then they will take them down. Unfortunately, this is only for minors. I wish that this was also for adults, but as of right now, it's only for minors. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the apps that our kids are using. A lot of these you definitely have already heard of, but there's been like a lot of changes to a lot of them lately, especially with parental controls. Um, YouTube, I say this a million times a week, I think. It is not if your children will see something inappropriate, it is definitely when. You can have all the parental controls, on your device. You can have the restricted mode on. You know, you can do all the privacy switches. Your child, I promise you, is still going to see something on YouTube that you don't want them to, whether it's violent, whether it's profanity, whether it's sexual, it is going to be something. That's why I so highly recommend parents talking to their kids about this before it actually happens so that they know how to process it and they are comfortable coming to you. Because the way YouTube works and a lot of these other apps is if they watch, that video long enough, YouTube will think your child likes it and will keep sending your child these inappropriate videos. One thing that's new with YouTube is you can now set time limits or completely block the shorts on YouTube entirely. AI chatbots. So there is a bill here in the state of Michigan right now that would pretty much rip AI chatbots to pieces if you are a minor. Kids are losing their lives. They're taking their own lives because AI chatbots are telling them to. There was a high schooler a couple months ago down south that was just started using an AI chatbot for homework, which a lot of kids do. But what you don't understand is the more you use these chatbots, the more these chatbots get to know you. And they don't sound like a robot. They sound like a person. And he started telling this AI chatbot that he was angry with his parents and that he was unhappy in life. And this AI chatbot ended up listing him different ways that he could die by suicide, and actually also helped him write the suicide letter that he wrote to his parents. Helped him write it line by line. Unfortunately, this 16-year-old did lose his life. And obviously the parents found out afterwards that this AI chatbot had assisted him in doing that. That's one thing these kids need to understand. I didn't even realize this with AI chatbots at first, but they are never going to disagree with you. They're never going to say, well, that's not a good idea. If you even show a picture and say, do you like my hair? They're never going to say, nope, I don't like your hair. It's always going to be your hair is beautiful. It's perfect. So they're always going to just reassure your child of whatever it is that's going through their head, whether it's good or bad. And these kids need to realize that these are robots. These are not humans. They don't have a brain. They don't have a heart. They don't think properly like a normal human being does. But they sound so real. And so back to the bill here in the state of Michigan, it's in the state Senate right now. What it would do is it would not allow chatbots to talk to kids of a certain age. It would stop them from sounding so real and not use the words like I and we. It also would not, it would stop any sexual content or violence or suicidal tendencies, anything like that from coming through. I don't know if that'll move or not. This is all so new, but states are definitely trying to get ahead of this. So Facebook, I know, we all know Facebook. Kids keep telling me all the time, nobody uses Facebook anymore. But still today, because I always check, it is still one of the top 10 most downloaded apps in the world. And when I was doing trafficking work, and I know they still do, traffickers use Facebook all the time to get their victims, especially in a lot of their ads when they're looking for dancers or actresses or models or cleaning ladies. People to work, they are looking for people to work in the back of restaurants, stuff like that. They use Facebook for this. I'm going to take a step back in just a second and explain what predators are looking for. And it doesn't matter what app they're using, they're all looking for the same thing. And when I say trafficker, I should say predator because I'm talking about all the bad actors out there, not just traffickers, also, adults that are unfortunately attracted to children. What they are looking for is the same thing that they were looking for 50, 60 years ago before the internet. But 50, 60 years ago, well, even like 40, 30 years ago, they were predators would hang out in malls, bowling alleys, the streets, and that's where they would find their victims and groom them. And they would only be able to handle, maybe three or four at the same time. Now predators can do this from their home and they can groom dozens of kids and adults at the same time without even leaving their place. But they're looking for the exact same thing. They're looking for the most vulnerable kids. I went to a anti-pornography conference years ago, and a guy that used to work out in LA, he was a recruiter for big pornography company out there. He received $500 for every girl he could bring into the studio, young girl. And he said he lived in malls. He was there every day. And he said that he looked for girls in threes. And at first, none of us really understood what he meant. But he said there's always one out of the three that just looks down and out. The other two are chit-chatting and laughing and having a good time. And she's just kind of sitting there and she looks, not very happy, kind of out of place. He said, that is the girl I would go up to every time. And 9 out of 10, she'd take my card. 9 out of 10 times she would take my card. They're looking for the exact same thing online, but our kids are making it so easy. Our kids are talking about hating themselves online. They're spitting out all their feelings. They're talking about how much they hate their parents, how much they hate school, how they don't like their body, how they've just been broken up with and nobody loves them, how they have no friends. Um, how they want to die. And a lot of these predators just look for certain hashtags, like hashtag I hate my mom, hashtag I want to die, hashtag I wish I was skinnier. And that's how they find their victims is they just go to these apps, and a lot of kids have accounts that aren't private and they search for certain words, and that's how they find their victims. So, X, one of the reasons I talk about this now is, X is not a huge app, a very huge, like a popular app that teenagers use, except for unless they're looking for pornography. Anything goes on X. There aren't any moderators. Unfortunately, um, there this he it's a mess. Twitter X is a mess, and it's actually gotten worse now because now it has its own chat box within X, and it's called Grok. And there are lawsuits left and right going against this chat box right now because if you give this chat box like a picture of yourself, or like let's say someone uploads a picture of their child that is totally dressed, you can ask the chat bot to undress the child, and it looks like child sexual abuse material. So there's I don't know how far, I don't know what the courts are going to do, but literally anything goes on this app. And there's a lot of child sexual abuse going on this app now. So Instagram, as much as I can't stand Meta, I give a little bit of props to Instagram. They constantly are adding more parental controls to their app. Like I said in the beginning, you as a parent, if you want your child to have this app and you want the parental controls to work, you also have to be on Instagram in order for them to work. But this is a list of the new parental controls, what will happen if your child is a minor. So even if they're friends with someone on Instagram and their friend DMs them a naked picture, it will come out blurry. Strangers cannot message your kids as long as you have this all hooked up correctly. But the problem with this is, like, this sounds great, but there's not many teenagers nowadays that I know of that only has one Instagram account. So that's where the Finsta account comes in. There's a lot of kids that have fake Instagram accounts. They'll have their one that their parents know about and all the parental controls are set up, and that's the one where they have hundreds of followers, whether it's family and athletes and friends, and just it's the one that most people can see. And then they'll have up to 3 or 4 other ones for just certain groups of people, and those usually are not private. So Snapchat, we all know what Snapchat does. One thing though that I want to make clear tonight is that Snap Map is causing so many problems in our schools on Monday mornings with girls because groups of girls, they're mean, and they will tell there'll be 6 friends and they'll tell one of them that that they're busy that weekend, they have sports or they have family stuff, that they're not getting together. And then on a Friday night, the one girl that's left out will get on the Snapchat map and see that all of her friends are together at someone's house and that she was not invited. I cannot tell you how I know girls who are seeing therapists now because of this happening to them, because of the Snap map. But it also is just not good to have on in the first place because you can find someone literally down to the car they're in. Something else that kids need to be aware of, and adults, of Snapchat is, there is a folder within Snapchat called For Your Eyes Only. Well, it's password protected, and supposedly, you can save different snaps in there and pictures, and no one can see it unless they have your password. Well, hackers have caught on to this. And what hackers are doing now, so this happened, I was giving this speech in Kalamazoo a couple weeks ago, and a mom raised her hand and said, this just happened to my daughter who goes to Michigan State University. Um, she had a naked picture of herself that she had taken a picture of and saved it in the For Your Eyes Only, thinking no one will see this. She didn't want to put it in her regular gallery, on her phone. She thought it was safe there. Well, a hacker got into it, saw her picture, and immediately sent her in a text message saying, if you don't send me $200 in the next 24 hours, I'm going to send this picture all over the place. She was smart enough to just not respond and immediately block the person. But you need to let your kids know that this folder is not as private anymore as it used to be. So TikTok, again, there are parental controls, you can narrow down who's watching your kids' stuff, and who they are following, but you as a parent have to be on TikTok as well. Roblox. So I feel like I could talk all night about Roblox right now. I honestly don't know how this app is still standing because um, it has so many lawsuits against it, and they're just having to constantly pay parents because kids are losing their lives, kids are getting kidnapped, kids are talking to people that they shouldn't be. It's a disaster. What they've done starting in January, I think, and if you have a child on Roblox, I'm sure that this has already happened. If your child wants to use the chat, then they have to have a facial recognition test done to determine their age. Unfortunately, my daughter did it. I did it with her because I wanted to see what it said. My daughter is 12, like I said. It did say that she was 13. But the parents that I've heard from when traveling the state is I've had so many parents talk about their 7 and 8 year olds having to do this facial recognition test, and Roblox is telling them that they're 13, 14 years old. And what happens is when Roblox determines that that's your birthday, you cannot switch it back to 7, 8 years old. So that is a major problem with Roblox right now. I'm going to warn you, these facial recognition tests are really becoming a thing, and you're going to see them more and more on your kids' apps. So this, I actually had a principal call me not too long ago about this app because her daughter was using this app and met a very someone that she should not have been talking to, and it unfortunately became very inappropriate very quickly. This is a dating app for teens. It works just like Tinder. You swipe right, you swipe left. It is supposed to be only for teenagers. But teens aren't using this to date. They're just using this to talk to people that they don't know. This also uses a facial recognition program to verify the age, and I'm going to tell you this one does not work whatsoever. Monkey, I don't know if though you the parents that are on tonight, I don't know what generation you are, but if you ever had Omegle, this is the new Omegle, pretty much, that kids are using. For those that don't know what this is a chat roulette app. You literally get into this app and you are randomly put face to face with anyone from around the world that you can talk to. So you can only imagine, predators play where kids play. And this is the perfect app for predators to be on because they're just automatically paired up with kids all the time from anywhere. So this, when I was talking about the registry at the beginning, I was talking about how kids are gambling online, and this is really becoming a problem. This app, I found out about because I was up in Midland and I was talking to a bunch of teenagers, and they asked me, "Hey, have you ever heard of Kelshi?" I had not, and they were like, "Oh, all of our friends have it." It's a betting app, but it's very different. It's not like it like if you go to it, I wish I would have went to it today. It'll ask questions like, oh, I don't know when the Pistons play again, but I'm just going to use that as an example. Will the Pistons win the next game? Yes or no? And you just bet on yes or no. Will the world come to an end in the next 10 years? Yes or no? And you just bet on yes or no. And kids are loving this. They said that everyone in their school uses it, even though you do have to, like, there's age restrictions. They're totally getting around it. It's very easy for a minor to get into this, and it just hooks up to your Cash App or to your debit card, and that's how they place bets. It has become very, very addictive to kids. So Twitch, I don't know if any of your kids are gamers, but this is a very popular app that didn't used to be that bad. My son actually used it years ago for just a little bit because he liked watching his favorite gamers play games. I don't get that concept, but I know a lot of kids like to do that, especially like they like watching their favorite gamer play Fortnite because then, they get to learn all the tricks and ins and outs of the game. And so the only problem with this years ago was really, there were violent games that some of these gamers were playing. And also there was a lot of swearing going on for sure. But now, unfortunately, what I have seen and am hearing is these gamers, in order for them to make more money and to get more followers, they are starting to hire young girls to dress very provocatively and sit on their laps or be like all over them, like around them on both sides of them while they play these games. So that is a huge disappointment when it comes to this app. If you've noticed tonight, I really am careful about telling parents what they absolutely should do, what they absolutely should not do. I try and just I want my goal is to give parents all the information and then have them make that decision for themselves and their own children. But this app, I beg parents, please do not allow your minor children to ever use Discord. Discord started out like Twitch, the app that I was just explaining. It was for serious gamers. Um, and it definitely when it came out, it definitely did say, this is for adults. But this is so much more than than watching your favorite gamer play games. There are within Discord, there are hundreds of thousands of chat rooms that you can jump into. And a lot of these chat rooms are very pornographic, very violent. Many of the last from the last couple of years, the school shooters were using Discord and were in a lot of chat rooms that were talking about school shootings, mass shootings. This is one of the worst apps I honestly have ever seen for kids and for adults. You can really go down a dark, dark path using this app. And then I'm almost done. So the last two apps that I have are I call them vault apps. They're apps that you can download and you can hide anything behind them because they're password protected. You can even hide other apps behind them. So for example, if I were to tell my daughter, and this would completely happen if I didn't give her the bark phone, if she asked for Snapchat, I said no, she could quickly download Snapchat and hide it behind this app and I would never know. Lots of kids, this is where they hide a lot of naked pictures or messages that they don't want their parents to know. With this one, like I said, it is password protected. But if you are a parent or someone, you're checking on your kid's phone and you put in the wrong password, it will automatically take a picture of you. So then your kids, when they get their phone back, will know that you have been snooping. And then this last one I still feel like I need to talk about is definitely the OG of Vault apps. This was the very first Vault app. I always tell parents if your child has more than one calculator on their device or on their cell phone, on the iPad, whatever, one is probably not a calculator. Even if you click on it, you go inside, it is a calculator, but there's a button up at the top that is password protected for you to get in to see what is behind this. That is my presentation. I know it was a ton of information in 45 minutes. If you could please share the information about the registry. Don't forget to sign yourself and your kids up. This is all of my information. I'm definitely gonna take questions, but if you're more comfortable emailing me or texting me your question later tonight or tomorrow, please feel free to do that. I still have parents that I spoke to 4 years ago that they have younger children now coming up and they contact me and ask me questions about certain apps or devices. So feel free to contact me at any time. Also, my Facebook page, Protect My Child. Please follow that. I post usually 3 or 4 times a week about new apps our kids are using or new parental controls that have come out. So, Lorinda, does anybody have any questions for me?
Yes, I have a couple questions in the chat, and
Great.
if people are out there that have questions, feel free to go to the Q&A and put your question. First question is, does Bark also flag for coded words, such as a word with, instead of being spelled only in letters, that has like an exclamation point in the middle for the I,
Yeah.
or the number 3 for an E?
Yes, it does. And it does keep updating because, I feel like our kids keep changing those code words that they're using. But yes, it does. It does look at all of that. And even like the emojis, signs for certain things, it catches all of that as well.
Excellent. Next question. How do we find secret or hidden apps on our kids' phones?
Well, my first piece of advice for that is I would have the phone on lockdown to where they cannot download an app without your permission. And most phones have that. So that would be the first thing I say, like if you have an Android, you can use Family Link and your child cannot download literally any app without your permission. They'll try to, you'll get an email and you can say yes or no. But a way to look at your kid's phone is I would tap on every folder and like there's the vault apps I was showing tonight. I only showed two. There's dozens and dozens of them. So the only way in my opinion, to look is to go through every single app and every single folder and look and see what's behind everything if they're not password protected.
Okay. And do you have recommendations for parental control apps or phones such as Bark, Pinwheel, etc.?
Yeah, I love Bark. I've heard Pinwheel is good. I think Pinwheel is more for much younger kids. But Bark is fantastic. So is Gab Wireless, though I have heard that the Bark phone has better oh, what am I saying? It has better like you can go more places with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like than Gab Wireless does. But Gab also has a watch that they have come out with as well that is really good. I really highly recommend starting young kids out with the watches first, and then going to phones. But yeah, I gotta tell you, we've had this Bark phone now for a year, and it's the best thing we could have ever done. It is amazing.
Great. Those are all the questions that are in the chat right now. So I think we'll probably wrap it up. Thank you for your time. This is going to be, this is recorded, so we're going to send it out to the other families in our district, and we'll include everything about Protect My Registry as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.